Recording in progress.
Good morning, all. We're about 3 minutes out before the meeting starts. We're just giving everybody a chance to join the platform, and then we'll start the meeting at 10 o'clock. Thank you. Hi, H.
Morning, Chair. Chairperson?
Hi, H.
It's 10 o'clock, Chair. We can start.
Thank you very much. I think I'm going to try, I've got bandwidth issues where I am, so I'm going to, with your indulgence, keep my video off for the duration of the meeting. That will just make it easier. Am I audible, H?
You are, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on the meeting of the Select Committee on Public Infrastructure and Minister in the Presidency. It is now 10 o'clock, and we'll also start the meeting. Thank you for flighting the agenda. You're all very welcome. Let's just run through the attendance quickly. Can I just get by, if I mention your name, if you can just indicate that you are in. Honorable Makasini.
In, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Skierkwafel. Honorable Nzimande.
I'm available. I'm in, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kaunda.
Morning, Chair. Morning to colleagues. I'm available. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Honorable Molokome.
Good morning, Chairperson. I'm in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Honorable Treza.
Morning, Chairperson. I'm in the meeting. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Honorable Peter. Honorable Moimang.
Chairperson, Honorable Mimang has apologized. He's attending the JSC interviews.
It's noted. Thank you very much. And Honorable Briet.
Present, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Just Honorable Skierkogel, have you joined us?
Yes, Chair, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Did I miss anybody?
Yes, you are missing Honorable Mabebu.
Good morning, Honorable. Thank you very much. Welcome in the meeting. Thank you. H, have we received any other apologies for the meeting apart from Honorable Moiman?
No, Chairperson.
Okay, great. That is so noted. Thank you very much, members.
Honorable Chairperson,
Yes.
my apologies. This is Mapisa, the Chairperson of Transport in KZN.
Good morning. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning, and I'd like to acknowledge everybody else on the platform, staff members, as well as any of the other members of provincial legislature that has joined this meeting this morning. You are very welcome for this briefing. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, the purpose of this meeting is then the briefing by the Department of Transport on the Marine Oil Pollution Bill, which is the Preparedness, Response and Cooperation Bill. It's a Section 76 bill, and we are going to be briefed on this bill this morning. Who will be doing the briefing for us from the department?
Good morning, Chairperson.
Sorry, you weren't audible. Just say again.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
Kulewa Hlengwa here, the DM. We
Good morning,
have
DM.
got...
You're very welcome. Are you...
Thank you very much. Good morning to the honorable members.
Presentation for us?
Yeah, I should have the DDG for Maritime online and the Chief Director, who will take us through the presentation, which I believe was sent to your good selves on time. And then after the presentations, we will then fill the question. So if I may just check if DDG, Madia, and Chief Director Ntuli are online, and then Chair, we will be in a position to proceed. I'm also going to request after this to keep my camera off for the same reasons as you have articulated on your side, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Much appreciated. We will then proceed. We will have more or less 45 minutes for the presentation, and then we will follow with a question and answer session by the members. Thank you very much.
Okay,
You're
Chair.
welcome to proceed.
Thank you. I see that DDG is online. So, Chair, in brief, as a country, we are a party to the International Convention on Oil Pollution Preparedness, Response and Cooperation, which is a 1990 convention. It's a maritime convention establishing measures dealing with oil pollution incidents in the marine space internationally and in cooperation with other countries. In terms of the convention, state parties to the convention undertake individually and jointly to take all appropriate measures to prepare for and respond to marine oil pollution incidents. The convention encourages the state parties to cooperate in areas like preparedness, development of contingency plans, equipment stocks, research and development initiatives, training and exercise programs, and appropriate spill notification procedures for shipping. So the Comprehensive Maritime Transport Policy Statement 21, which will also be briefly touched on the effective systems of maritime environment preparedness, response, and cooperation, speaks about present and future institutional arrangements which will be established for marine pollution preparedness in South African waters, which must ensure institutionalization of a single command structure for marine incident response and management. So as a result then, Chairperson, this bill which we are presenting to you today was developed to incorporate the provisions of the convention in South African legislation. So it's an update to ensure the proper domestic of the convention in South African law. So with that, may I then request DDG Madi and the team, if you can take the honorable members through the presentation. I mean, as we have said, the chairperson says we've got 45 minutes. I've already taken 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister, and good morning to the Chair of the Select Committee and the esteemed members that have joined us today. Chair, I'm not going to take long. I will then request, as we are trying to manage time, because I think the Deputy Minister has covered on his introductory comments as to why we are here today. I will therefore request Mr. Nduli, who is the Chief Director for Policy and Legislation in the Department of Transport, to take the Select Committee through the presentation. Thank you very much. I'll also switch off my camera. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Please continue.
Good morning, honorable members. Chair, the Deputy Minister, thank you very much for the opportunity. And as the Deputy Minister has provided an update as to why we are here, he also indicated that the copy of the presentation was shared. And at this time, I would kindly request that if it can be flighted, so that we can take the members through the presentation.
Thank you. While we're waiting for the presentation to be flighted, I just want to ask, please, all the members of provincial legislatures, just for record-keeping purposes, if you don't mind, just putting your name in. The Secretary can record your presence. Thank you very much. Please continue.
Chairperson, I will request Dr. Clark to assist in the flighting of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clark.
Is the presentation visible, Chair?
Yeah, it's visible. Thank you very much.
Yes. No, thank you very much. And I would request that I'll just put my video phone off. No, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think the journey here has been a journey which has been seeking to ensure that the Republic implements its pollution prevention strategy, and therefore is able to ensure that it is operating on par with the rest of the parties to the convention, but also parties to the IMO convention, which is a UN body that serves as a platform for states who are maritime states to cooperate on measures to improve safety, to improve pollution prevention and preservation of the marine environment. So in this presentation, I would highlight the pollution strategy, and I would deal with the overall summary of the bill, and I would discuss specific sections of the bill, and I will also touch on the provisions of amending existing laws that the bill is proposing. Next slide, please. So this slide shows us in colors the progress that the department has made in implementing its pollution prevention strategy. So you'll notice that the boxes that are colored in green reflects work that we have already accomplished. And the boxes reflected in amber shows work in progress at an advanced stages of completion, and therefore this shows that we're almost there in terms of effectively implementing the pollution strategy of the Republic. You will also as well notice that the strategy centers on prevention. That's the primary responsibility that we're to prevent, that there should not be any pollution of the marine environment. Where there has been, we have the liability provisions, which makes those the polluters responsible to account for their pollution. And where all fails, we have then the compensation regime to which the Republic is party to, that compensates for major oil spills. Now, the lag on preparedness and response is what we are dealing with in this bill. And then once we have achieved this, we will then have outstanding the liability for oil pollution by bunkers. Bunkers are oil carried by ships for trading purposes, but also is oil carried by ships for navigation purposes to propel the vessels. So those would be the two already, the liability convention, the liability for oil pollution by bunkers is already in the process. I think it will be reaching the NCOP soon. Next slide, please. So the bill, the OPRC bill that is before the members today, centers on 5 pillars. The first pillar is on risk assessments. It promotes the conducting of risk assessments, the national oil spill contingency plans that must be approved by the minister, training and exercise to ensure that our response resources are combat ready to respond to any eventuality of an oil spill. And it there also provides for the reporting of incidents and the cooperation. Cooperation is critical because maritime states, they've got maritime neighbors. So any spill happening in one jurisdiction may impact on the next jurisdiction. So the convention then provides for a mechanism of cooperation between states. Next slide, please. So as a summary of the bill provides then for the processes to regulate, manage the preparedness and response to major marine oil pollution incidents at national level, and as well as cooperation with other countries as necessary and appropriate. The cooperation covers development of contingency plans, research, training, and exercise programs. Next slide. South Africa being located along the busiest sea shipping route straddling the Indian Ocean on the eastern seaboard, the Atlantic Ocean on the west, and the huge southern ocean extending as far as the Antarctic region, and the fact that more than 12,000 vessels of varied sizes carrying different types of cargoes, including oil, pass through our coast on an annual basis. South Africa is exposed, therefore, to all types of risk associated with maritime traffic, including possible pollution from ships, groundings, and groundings of ships, etc. South Africa then, as a party to this convention, the OPRC convention, like all other states, has undertaken individually or jointly with others to take all appropriate measures to prepare and respond to marine oil pollution incidents. The OPRC convention itself then encourages states to cooperate in the following specific areas for purposes of spill preparedness: development of contingency plans, equipment stocks, research and development initiatives, training and exercise programs, and appropriate spill notification procedures for shipping. Next slide, please. South Africa does not at this stage, and this is the testimony to us taking this bill forward, we don't have measures that can put us in a state where we can have an assurance that we have prepared and we have planned for a rapid response to any incident that may occur. The decision to accede, therefore, to the Oil Pollution Preparedness and Response Convention was informed by the need to adopt international standards and good practices in marine pollution incident preparedness and response. The department has not domesticated the treaty international law as required by Section 231 of the Constitution, and this is what we are seeking to accomplish here. The absence of legislation, therefore, poses a great risk in the event that there is a major oil pollution incident along the South African coast. The bill adopts international standards and good practices in marine pollution incident preparedness and response, and our own national policy, the Comprehensive Maritime Transport Policy, provides for the establishment of institutional arrangements for effective systems of marine pollution preparedness, response, and cooperation. Now, in terms of the objects of the bill, then it aims to incorporate into law the relevant provision of the International Convention relating to marine pollution preparedness and response and cooperation to reduce and control the pollution of the marine environment by oil from ships, offshore installations, seaports, and oil handling facilities. You will notice here that we have ensured that we capture all potential sources of pollution of the marine environment, and that includes our own ports, and it includes the offshore installation planned and operational at this stage, or any other facility that handles oil to be covered by the bill. Next slide, please. We also then aims to provide for the safe, effective, and efficient management and deployment of resources in response to cooperation in and control of spills of oil or any other pollutant from ship or any other sources within South African waters, or which pollute or threaten to pollute South African waters, aquatic resources, coastline, and related interests. To provide also for the effective cooperation with the neighboring countries in matters pertaining to marine pollution preparedness, response, and cooperation. Next slide, please. The schedule to the bill also contains the proposals to amend the South African Maritime Safety Authority Act of 1998 to provide in Section 38 of that Act the renaming and repurposing of the Marine Pollution Preparedness and Response Fund, and the fund will be resourced from the levies imposed on seaports and oil handling facilities and offshore installations, as well as penalties, fines, or forfeiture for contravention of the act, and also money in the fund will only be for the purpose of furthering the objectives of prevention, preparedness, response, and combating pollution of the marine environment by ships, seaports, or oil handling facilities and offshore installations. This is the mechanism that, as the department, we are proposing that be instituted, because there is no other mechanism of preparing for such incidents before we opt for compensation. So it is important that we have this mechanism, and the Marine Pollution Preparedness and Response Fund will then be a source for the Maritime Safety Authority to be combat ready and to have the necessary resources to respond to the incidents as they occur. Next slide. We also provide for an amendment to the SAMSA Act to empower SAMSA to have the function of preparing and responding to functions. This is important following the announcement by the Department of Environment Affairs, which indicated that they were no longer going to be responsible for the combating function, and that's now going to be taken over by the Department of Transport. So this act prepares for the assumption of those responsibilities and functions that SAMSA has been assigned to undertake, and as well as to provide for capacity to SAMSA to conduct surveillance, monitoring, and to have and acquire response assets. So basically, that's what the bill provides for, and we will then be able to deal with the questions that members may provide. And I thank you, Chair. I thank you, DDG and the Deputy Minister for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very
Chair,
much.
that's it from our side.
Apologies.
No, Chair, I was saying that's it from our side. We'll hand over back to you and the honourable members for questions.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, there you have it. Thank you very much for the presentation by the department. Deputy Minister, you and your team, we appreciate the time and effort in briefing us on this very important bill. We now go over to questions. I'm going to also just recognize members of provincial legislature that are in the meeting. Good morning, Member Pretorius from the Free State Legislature. I see in the chat that you've indicated you're on the meeting. You are also very welcome to pose questions should you wish. Members, if you want to just pose questions by show of hands, I'll recognize you, and then you can pose your question. I'll allow 3 minutes per member on the first round. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yes, Chairperson.
All right, let's start with Honourable Keza. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I just wanted to check whether the bill, in terms of the compensation for oil damage, does it speak only to coastal provinces? This is a question for clarity. And what happens when the oil is transported then to the inland and an accident occurs that affects a particular village? Will it be covered in the bill? The second question that I have, Chair, is pertaining to, in a nutshell, what would the department say the bill seeks to achieve in this regard? And the third one, Chairperson, of clarity, whether they have, we are supposed, maybe you will liberate me, Chairperson, and the Deputy Minister on this one, whether the National Assembly has already gone through the clause-by-clause process of the bill, and whether we are going to get the legal advice in terms of or legal presentation and a bit of reduction into clause by clause of the bill. The last one, Chairperson, may perhaps be pointed to the DM in terms of whether they have done due diligence in terms of looking at the impact assessment of the bill before it becomes an act. I'm saying that sometimes we have laws that are actually seeking to protect, but I'm worried about if there is no impact assessment in terms of its implementation and to track its effectiveness. Does the department have that in place? Those are my questions, Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Honourable Keza, thank you very much. And I think because there's 4 questions in that round, can I ask the department to respond to those questions, and then we'll continue with the next question, please? So, first of all, the oil damage regarding oil damage on inland transport, and then the three other sections of the question, if you don't mind just answering that first. Thank you.
DDG and Chief Director, if you may start and come in at the end of these questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Minister, and thanks to Honorable Reza for the questions. I think if I were to start on the last question, whether the impact assessment has been done, the answer is yes. We conduct that exercise at the beginning of the development of any bill. We through the DPME as part and parcel of the impact assessments to see whether what will then be the impact of the bill if it were to be implemented. We call that CS exercise. We do that. And we did receive a certificate because you cannot go through the any cluster up to cabinet without having received a CS certificate that confirms that that exercise has been conducted. Secondly, whether the coastal provinces, this bill covers these coastal provinces versus the inland. The jurisdiction, honorable member, of this bill is for the maritime jurisdiction. So if there's a spillages that happens inland or in transit into inland areas of the country, there are other laws that are applicable to that effect. And Mr. Ntuli, I will give you what does the bill actually seeks to achieve, and whether the bill has gone through clause by clause before it comes into this committee. If you can take those two questions, Mr. Ntuli. Thanks.
Okay. No, thank you very much, DDG and Deputy Minister.
Mr. Ntuli, please unmute. You've muted yourself.
Yeah, sorry. No, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you very much for the responses that DDG has provided already, and the application provisions are covered in clause 4 of the bill, and indeed they restrict application to coastal waters. Yes, in terms of, in a nutshell, what we're seeking to address is that because of the impact as we have assessed through the SAYAS process, socioeconomic impact assessment, it became clear that one department would not succeed in coordinating a response because the impact of spills extends beyond the mandate of the Department of Transport. It would affect the Department of Tourism, for instance, the Department of Fisheries and Environment and Forestry. It would impact on international relations because of the cross-border movement of the oil spill that may occur. It will also impact on the coastal industries, be it those that are serving tourism or those that are doing fisheries, etc. So the impact then requires a coordinated response, and the bill then gives that to us, and ensuring that we've got a coordinated mechanism to respond to an oil spill swiftly and deal with all the negative consequences that may arise. So already, to build for the possible coming into effect of the bill, already we've got a mechanism where all these stakeholders that I've identified are already preparing in anticipation of a system that would be well regulated. So that's what we don't have at the moment, and the bill provides that opportunity for South Africa to give full effect to its commitment on the OPRC convention. Thank you. Yes, I think the last question, sorry, relates to whether we have been to the National Assembly. Indeed, the Portfolio Committee on Transport has been taken through the provisions of the bill. There were public hearings that were held, and as well as the written submissions which the department responded to, and hence then the bill has been referred to the National Council of Provinces, the Select Committee in particular, to give the fulfillment of the requirements of the Constitution, because the bill does impact on provinces. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kaiser, are you covered?
Chairperson, I'm covered with the responses. Thank you so much, DM and your team. I'm only left with just two matters. On the public hearings, were you able to cover the 170 people that are affected by visual impairment? Because I'm saying that, Chair, because there are issues of exclusion of these people who are suffering this category of disabilities. Did you have a braille that is available apart from the fact that the sign language is always available in terms of the public hearings? And the last question relates to the nature of penalties that will be implemented by the department in the event of oil spillages. As you said, that they would affect tourism, coastal industries, and so forth. Thank you so much, Chair, for the opportunity.
Honorable Kaiser, thank you very much for that. Would the department like to respond to those two questions, and then we'll move on to the next members' questions, please?
Chairperson, the issues around public hearings were obviously by and large handled by Parliament, the PC, and we would respond then to the issues as and when they are brought to us. So I would imagine that in the event that there's a specific matter that the Honourable Member has, Honourable Kaiser has, he can provide that in the process you will unfold, and we will provide the responses. What maybe one can also recommend is that the public hearing submissions which came before the PC can also be furnished to the committee now for ease of reference and comparison of issues as a baseline upon which maybe other issues you would want to take forward. And then maybe just one last issue on the issues that he has raised is to say, obviously what we are really trying to get at here is also ensuring the standardization of South Africa's participation on international fora. So domesticating the convention is important because the standard upon which we are held in any matter can be easily referenced against the protocol. It becomes urgent, Chair, because of the circumstances which we find ourselves in, because of the conflicts that are currently at play in the Middle East in particular, which are forcing the rerouting of vessel traffic to our shores. And so what we really need to do is our preparedness needs to be heightened because we are handling traffic volumes which ordinarily we would not be seeing. So there's also that preventative action step insofar as crisis is concerned that is factored in here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think also just one would assume that for visually impaired persons, there would be audio recordings available of the public hearings on the parliamentary platforms. Thank you very much for that. Honourable Skeerkogel.
Thank you very much, Chair. Okay, I want to just, the first question that I have, maybe I missed it or I tried to see it in the bill, because it said in section 38, talking about changing of the name of the fund. I would just like to know what would the name be. And then if on slide 12, it talks about that the levies will be coming from our seaports. My question is, and I think the minister just kind of reiterated just now why I want to ask this question. Are our ports ready to receive these levies? Because we know if you look at Durban's port, it's in shambles. So will we be able to collect these levies so that we can fund this fund to ensure that our waters is protected? Then I want to just go to the Act. It's a section 5 of the Act, number 5, where it's talking the general director must be within 2 years after the Act comes into operation, cause that the marine oil assessment be undertaken by the owner of the operation in the port. I just want to ask, and again, it goes back to what the deputy minister just said now. Isn't that time frame a bit too long if it's getting acted? Let's say it gets an act next year and 2 years later after that, and in the meantime, there's escalation of the conflict in the East. Then in section 7, they say the frequency is 5 years. Don't we think we should decrease the frequency, because I think maybe 5 years might be too little to evaluate it. Then on section 6, it also talks about there's no time frame given in section 6, and I wonder if we should not add a time frame for that contingency plan. Then in section 10 of the bill, it's talking about accreditations, institutions to give training and those kind of. So does South Africa have any accredited institutions to do this training to ensure that the bill is to the full extent? Then in section 12, it talks about regional cooperations. I just want to ask, do we currently have any regional cooperation agreements that is there if there an incident happen? Because there's different tiers of this. There's tier 1 that we can deal with, level 2 that we can deal with, and then tier 3 is where our ports can't deal with it. Then I want to go to.
You've done your 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Can we take those responses from the department, and then we can give you another chance on the second round if there's time. Thanks very much, Honourable Skeerkogel.
DDG Chief Director.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
You may continue, Mr. Ntuli.
Okay, thank you, DDG. Just there was one question response that I think on the first question that was raised, and that relates to penalties. Just to confirm that section 30 of the bill provides for penalties and offences. And just to bring to the members, I'm sure that we'd have read this, that any fines, I think, have been increased to 35 million for any person who is found guilty to have not complied with this act. So this as well just confirms the zero tolerance approach that the country is taking with regards to oil pollution of the marine environment. And the question relating to the name of the fund would be named Oil Pollution Preparedness and Response Fund. And in terms of the resourcing of that fund, it would be the levies that are collected from all those that are covered by the Act, and that includes the oil pollution, no, includes all processing companies, the any oil handling facility along the coast, as long as it interacts with the maritime sector or is in the proximity of a maritime establishment, it would be required. It will be covered by the bill. Now, the member, I think, noticed, commented that the time frames for the conducting of assessments needs to be reviewed. I think this matter was raised by the portfolio committee, but in our explanation, and I think which got the understanding of the committee, was that you would notice that things are all lined up, because the first action that is undertaken is the minister prescribing in regulation the matters that must be taken into consideration in the conducting of the risk assessments. So the 2 years that activates the conducting of those assessments is informed by the fact that the minister will have to publish the regulations immediately after the signing into law of the bill, and in order to prepare those that are covered by the Act, 2 years was seen to be reasonable in the conducting of the risk assessments. So one action leads to another, and I think in terms of providing a quicker response and preparedness, that should be sufficient. But also members must take account of the fact that, as I indicated earlier on, the SAMSA and the stakeholders have not been sitting idle. There are already interim structures that have already been created in anticipation of the bill. So there is a degree of preparedness and response that the Republic is able to provide. The only thing that is missing is the legal teeth to actually ensure that that is enforced. And the bill helps us to bring very clear certainty in terms of the requirement. Last question relating to the collection of the levies by the ports. South Africa has got a very good system of collection of levies by the Port Authority, and but in this case, what they would be required to do would be to contribute to the fund. So they would be levied. So they would as well they are regarded as contributors to this fund. But in terms of the mechanisms on the collection thereof, that will also be further clarified in the regulation that the minister would make. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Skeerkogel, on the questions that you posed, are covered?
Chair, there was just a question on, do we have accredited institutions to do this training according to Section 10? That is the only one that wasn't answered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Department, could you respond to that question, please?
Thank you, Deputy Minister and DDG. If I could just take this one to indicate that the IMO has got a program which is undertaken by the Technical Cooperation Division of the International Maritime Organization. and they've got courses that they offer to states, in particular developing states, on preparedness and response. And I'm happy to say here that already the South African role players who have been organized as an interim structure pending the coming into force of the finalization of this bill have been receiving training. So IMO has got accredited courses that they offer to states. Now, for ongoing training that would extend to for instance, private sector players, there are accredited institutions globally that would offer site-specific training, which part of is going to be compulsory, and it will be covered by the by SAMSA in this case, which is just one training on per year on the familiarization and preparedness. But for ongoing training would be provided by globally recognized bodies for the private sector, but IMO stands ready to assist developing states in terms of training related to the implementation of the OPRC convention. Thank you.
Chair, if you allow, there's one specific question on cooperation that I wanted to respond to, whether there's any existing cooperation currently. There is the Benguela Current Convention, which was signed last year by South Africa, Namibia, and Angola, which is one of the bases in which we cooperate on all the aspects of environment. So the answer is yes, there is one that a cooperation that we have signed with our neighboring countries on the coastal, as coastal states. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Skeervogel, are you covered?
100 for the first round. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. I see, I think it's Honorable Kaunda. I was just seeing Kolisi's iPhone, so I assume it's Honorable Kaunda. Honorable Kaunda.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Let's welcome the presentation by DM and the team. It's really assisting us as a committee to prepare ourselves as we are still going to be going out for public consultations. Chair, I think the department have outlined, I couldn't hear clearly in terms of the potential cost structure in terms of levies. How is that designed and how will it look like? That's the first one. The second one, Chair, on the potential risk, have we experienced any recent, I know when it comes to the sector, the recent maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago of incidents of this nature where the pollution was experienced due to leakages, and what were those actual incidents, if any, that have just happened? And looking at the risk factors, everything has got the risk side of it and the potential on whether is it possible or is there any intention of out of this bill to become an act tomorrow that there will be opportunities created, especially for the youth, to venture into the space. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kaunda. The Department can respond. Thank you.
Mr. Ntuli?
Thank you, DDG. Yeah, thank you to Honorable Kaunda for the questions. The provisions on the levies would further be clarified in terms of the level of contributions that would be levied on the entities that are covered by the bill, and as well as the mechanism of collecting that. But part of the step that is necessary is the assessment of the risk. So the assessment of the risk and the resources that SAMSA, South African Maritime Safety Authority, would require in terms of the new functions that the bill gives to SAMSA, as shown in the amendments that are proposed in the bill, would then cause that SAMSA would do their own calculation and budgeting on the requirements, and on the basis of the needs that are identified, they would then include as a new levy on the existing levies that they are imposing on firstly on ships calling at South African ports, but in this case also to include the offshore oil handling facilities, and to as well include the seaports. Then SAMSA will then be able to put a figure on what would be required in that regard. So what the bill provides is an enabling framework at this stage, which would then would just follow the normal course of SAMSA doing their own budgeting and requirements based on the new functions that have been assigned to them. In terms of the recent incidents involving this product, oil, I would say that there has not been major incident. I think we must be thankful to the fact that there hasn't been a major drastic pollution incident that SAMSA has not managed to handle. This is not to say there hasn't been, but there have been, but the level has not reached the scale that was unmanageable for SAMSA. And as a way of demonstrating the interim existing structures that have been created, South Africa was able to respond to that particular incident and activated the level 1 response, which required the mobilization of the various role players to respond to the impact of the spill that was registered along our coast. So, and in terms then of the last question relating to the opportunities for young people, yes, indeed, I think any legislation that we develop, because it would impact on the broadly on the marine economy, there would be opportunities. But this bill's purpose is only to deal with issues of preparedness and response. There are other instruments, for instance, the merchant shipping bill that is currently with the Portfolio Committee on Transport, that would deal with some elements of the economic activities where opportunities for youth would be bigger than what this bill may provide. But on issues, for instance, on issues of raising the awareness and ensuring that coastal provinces have got all these possibilities of mobilizing a response to a clean up, for instance, it's only young people that would stand to benefit, because some of these activities would need people with the relevant skills of working in water, in marine sector, and working with the cities, the maritime clusters, etc. That there is a mechanism where young people are drawn into the sector to participate and support any response to a possible to a pollution incident. I will end it then. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ntuli. Honorable Kaunda, are you covered?
Yes, Chair, but I just wanted to be clarified on whether there is potential of introducing renewables to mitigate the risk factors that have been identified in the sector, if there is any. Lastly, Chair, on a lighter note, the investigations must be conducted on the pollution since 1652 when Jan van Riebeeck arrived in South Africa. Thank you.
Duly noted. Would the Department like to respond to the first part of that question, please?
Thanks, Chair. I think the renewable energy will be in the form of propelling the equipment that we may use as and when it's necessary to combat any pollution that has taken place in our seas. So that will be the mechanism from my perspective that we can be able to use any other renewables. It could be in the form of bringing tugs that are being propelled by LNG, LPGs. It could be any other mechanically propelled equipment that we may use that will be using the renewables or any other form of clean energy. But in a sense of the actual activity that will be conducted, we at this juncture, to the question of the Honorable Kaunda, we do not think that would be practical. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's move on. Honorable Peter, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to everyone. Chair, my question would be about the safety of the marine economy. I would like to ask the honorable members, how safe is the marine economy? Do you have safety measures, mechanism to protect this economy from extortions, from this mafia style, this hijacking? Do you have such measures? Secondly, I don't know whether I just heard properly. How does this bill seek to achieve, so that we can understand properly? If maybe I missed that point, I would apologize, but I just want to know, what is this bill seeks to achieve to this House today? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Peter. Yeah, I think it's let the department respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'll take the first question, and then Mr. Ntuli will have to augment the second question because it's coming back for the second time. What are the safety measures that we have put in place to protect our marine economy? I think, Chair, environmentally speaking, South Africa as a maritime nation has a responsibility to protect our waters. We do this in two forms. One, we are required by law to have an equipment in a form of a pollution tug that patrols our waters, firstly to assist the vessels that are distressed, that might be experiencing mechanical failure on the vessels. Secondly, we've got a responsibility to make sure that in the event of any pollution on the passing vessels, we need to have a combative equipment, a capability as a state to make sure that we reduce the exposure. Thirdly, through the FFFE, we've got about 5 patrolling vessels which are managed by South African Maritime Safety Authority that are also patrolling our waters to make sure that the illegal fishing that it takes place sometimes in our waters, our exclusive economic zones, we are able to combat that. I think the treaty that I spoke about, it goes beyond just environmental protection. It also assists the countries, South Africa, Angola, as well as Namibia, in the event of illegal fishing. When the suspects run away from our jurisdiction, we've got an ability to arrest them even if they are no longer in our waters. That's a coordination that we have undertaken as these 3 strategic countries as coastal states. So we are continuing to develop our capability as a country to make sure that we protect our marine economy. In fact, we are working with SNDF currently to develop a maritime security strategy, which is one of the resolutions that were taken by the department so that we can be able to tap in on the technical expertise of SNDF. And we're working together with the University of Stellenbosch as our technical advisor to develop a maritime security strategy to make sure that we are properly secured as a country. So the challenge, Chair, is the funding. There are a legislative initiative that we have taken to make sure that we get the appropriate funding through the sector itself to make sure that we capacitate ourselves as a state to combat any form of illegal economic activities that is taking or might take place in our waters. Mr. Nduli, if you can augment the question of what exactly this bill seeks to achieve. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, DDG. Okay, so just to go back and clarify. So South Africa is a party to the Oil Pollution Preparedness and Response and Cooperation Convention. So this convention was negotiated and adopted by the diplomatic conference to which South Africa participated. And following that, South Africa then submitted the instruments of accession to the convention. So we are parties to the convention. Now, becoming a party to the convention is not enough. And in terms of our constitution, for that convention to be enforced and be binding on the citizens of the Republic, the Constitution compels the executive to ensure that it proposes legislation that would domesticate that convention. So this bill then is in fulfillment of a constitutional requirement for the Oil Pollution Preparedness and Response and Cooperation Bill to be enforceable in South Africa. We just emerged last year from an audit by the International Maritime Organization. One of the findings that the audit made was that even though South Africa was party to a number of conventions, but it had not domesticated those conventions. So meaning that South Africa was not giving full effect to some of the conventions that that we have ratified. But the audit commended South Africa that considering the progress that we have made, which I've shown in my third slide, showing that in terms of prevention, we've got sufficient legislation to give effect to the commitments that we have made internationally. So in order for South Africa or for the department to accomplish a full implementation of that strategy, the enactment of the Oil Pollution Preparedness and Response Bill is so necessary, so critical. More especially with the commitment that we have made as a country to develop to be an international maritime center by 2030. An enactment of this bill then is so critical, is a step that would give South Africa that it is indeed giving full effect to the trade. But as an enabling legislation, it helps us to deal with the issue that the DDG has raised, more particularly dealing with the fact that we do not have dedicated resources for responding to incidents, and this bill then helps us by taking the responsibility that the Department of Environmental Affairs and Fisheries are unable to conduct any further, for that to be carried under this bill, and capacitating the South African Maritime Safety Authority to have the necessary response equipment and surveillance equipment to ensure that the prevention, well, that's the first thing that we do, prevention. But if prevention fails, then we will then be able to respond. But also the GDG has covered the point that this is not suggesting that the department and as well as the SAMSA has not provided for. We've got a dedicated oil pollution prevention tag that helps stave off any impact or substandard ships coming closer to our coast. But that's not sufficient, but just a demonstration. So this bill would then as well, because all these assets that SAMSA would acquire would help in strengthening our prevention capability. So this bill then, although the Portfolio Committee on Transport has supported it, but it requires, because it will impact on the provinces, for the portfolio for the Select Committee to give concurrence to the bill. So basically, that's what we that's the clarification I will provide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Peter. Are you covered?
Thank you so much, sir. The team of the minister is well cooked. I'm 100% covered. Thank you so much, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Honourable Peter, and thank you for your contribution. Honourable Brett, I see your hand is up. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I just have a few questions. The one is with regards to clause 16 that speaks of support of disaster structures, and I would specifically like to hook that onto municipal and provincial disaster management centers. And I would like to find out whether they were consulted and whether there were any substantive inputs from these centers, and what were they, because I can just think that they are supposed to to assist with the implementation thereof. Then my second question would be, and I know we've spoken about the levies, and in a prior question we have spoken about the funds, and I know clause 18 speaks of the cost recovery and compensation, but I would like to find out what is the cost of implementation of this bill going to be to the department, not necessarily only in funds, but also will we have to look at more employees or specific centers or departments or certain afdelings, for this? What will that implementation be? And then we have spoken, and I know clause 30, as was mentioned earlier by, I think it was by Ntate Ntule, spoke of offences and penalties, and he made mention that it's going to be strict. But I would like to know, for instances of repeat offenders, for example, are there appropriate sanctions? Are we going to be banning or, looking at other measures, or will we only have penalties that's escalated? Because I think in the long run, we have to prioritize, not having recurring instances. And I can just think in the history of my life, how we've had repeat incidences of certain companies, with regards to oil pollution. So, Chair, those are my three questions, and I would leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Department. You're welcome to respond.
Mr. Ntuli.
Thank you. Thank you, DDG, and thank you to honorable members. I think the first question on the cost of implementation, yes, indeed, there would be cost of implementation. I've already referenced the mandate that is coming from the Department of Fisheries, Forestries, and Environment on the combating function. But also, if you go through, you would have noticed that in the bill itself, there are new functions that are assigned to the Director General, more especially on the conducting of the assessment, and as well as the contingency plan, etc. Those are currently being undertaken by the existing staff of the branch, of the department. But the new mechanism that the bill proposes, I think, would impact. But we are also mindful of the fact that there's not going to be new money in terms of the public service. So what is going to impact then on staff would be training and retraining, and providing, I think, adding the responsibilities to avoid as much as possible any temptation to try and ask for more funding for the which I think the message at this stage is quite clear. But I must as well here abuse the position to indicate that with the new under the 7th administration, the department will be looking into the structure, and by extension, I'm sure that we would consider forthcoming legislation, and the structure will then be reconfigured to ensure that any additional function that the bill brings to the department, that the leadership would provide appropriately for that, in terms of training and retraining of staff, to ensure that they're able to carry on the new functions and requirements. In terms of the involvement of disaster management, the bill promotes a coordinated response mechanism, and the question was whether disaster management role players were consulted. Now, I think the response to that question is that the relevant department, COCTA in this case, was consulted, and they participated in the submitted I think comments, which which were incorporated not only directly to the department, but also this interim coordinating mechanism that has already been established was able to provide comments into the draft bill. But the specific forum that the honourable member referred to, I would not be able to confirm whether they submitted any input, and then maybe it would this opportunity where you would invite comments, they may just be advised to then consider and submit the relevant comments to help. But in terms of the disaster management community, those are consulted and they are engaged with the process, and they are waiting batedly to have the bill signed, approved by Parliament. Now, you referred to the issues of persistent polluters. So persistent polluters are then covered by the other piece of legislation, which we already have, the Marine Pollution Prevention Legislation Act of 1986. So that act then identifies and has provisions to deal with the persistent polluters. But I must as well here say that our Admiralty Jurisdiction Regulation Act is very strong in terms of targeting those ships that seems to be persistent in their contravention of laws. South Africa, for that reason, is regarded as the ship arrest capital of the world, because we don't only look at the ship that is causing problem, but if that ship, for whatever reason, has polluted and then avoids coming to South Africa, our legislation is able to invoke what we call sister ship arrests. So any associated ship to the polluter, it gets attached. So we, as I've said, I think we have adopted a zero tolerance on pollution prevention, substandard ships along our coast. But we are also members of what is called the Memorandum of Understanding on Port State Control. We were parties to the Indian Ocean Memorandum of Cooperation and the Abuja Memorandum of Understanding on Port State Control. This helps us in being part of other maritime administrations along our coast to know of ships that are causing problems, and these are identified there and they are shared between the states that are members of the Memorandum of Cooperation. So we've got a very tight system in terms of prevention, and it helps us and ensure that we're not impacted negatively. And as I've indicated earlier on, issues of compensation are covered by another convention to which we are giving full effect. And South Africa, in terms of any major incident, the members must be assured that we are fully covered. We have got, it's an insurance, it's a global insurance for oil pollution to which South Africa is a party of. We will be coming back to Parliament to request the domestication of the harmful and noxious substances protocol, which looks at the chemicals. This one looks at the oil. But I think we are covered and safe in that way. And to have this bill, it will strengthen us to really give full effect to our pollution prevention strategy as the Republic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Brett, are you covered?
Yes, Chair, thank you, I'm covered.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Quibi's iPhone. I have no idea who Quibi is. Just help me out. Okay, let's move on to Honourable Makasini.
No, thanks, Chairperson. Let me welcome the presentation. I just want to check this bill was presented on the last administration. What was the delay that they have observed, or do they have did they insert new things so that this bill is not rejected again? After the public hearing, we're able to process the bill is become a legislation. Then, except the 3 countries that they say they are partner, they are on the Namibia and Angola and South Africa. I just want to check whether those 3 countries, they are also on they have right legislation and the bills, so that we don't do the right things, then we get affected by the other countries of the other states who are not cooperating with the Maryland oil pollution, with this bill of pollution that we are dealing with, so that we avoid the issue that we are on the right course of the law, but to find our state that we are cooperating with them, they are not doing what they are doing. What we are doing is Namibia and Angola and other states like Mozambique, are they also doing it so that we don't come back to redo what we have already done as a country if this bill will be passing? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Makasini. The department can respond.
Chairperson, the bill was, so I don't think it's a matter of a delay. I think it's a matter of a timing insofar as Parliament's program is concerned, in that the bill was initially introduced to Parliament in March 2022, and it was subsequently considered and approved by the Portfolio Committee in October 2023. So the next logical legal step after NA processes is that it comes here, and so it may have coincided ordinarily with the elections amongst others, and so in inverted commas, it coming to yourselves here is a resuscitation of the bill at its next leg to ensure that it actually goes through the parliamentary processes correctly. Can the team respond to the second part of the questions? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Whether other countries that we have mentioned before, Namibia, Angola, are doing the same. The cooperation, Honorable Chair, goes beyond to the specific bill with these other countries. It talks to illegal fishing on our waters. It talks about sharing our resources in the event of environmental disasters. It talks about search and rescue activities. It talks about sharing of information and intelligence to make sure that we properly guard our coastlines. So, and also I think it's worth noting the fact that Namibia and Angola are part and parcel of the International Maritime Organization. So they will run their own respective domestications of the decisions that have been taken at an IMO level. The answer is yes, but it may not go in a same format and objectives that we are seeking as a country, because the cooperation with these other countries goes beyond that. Maybe lastly, Chair, because we also cooperate with Mozambique, including the patrolling of the Mozambican channel, which is not necessarily under this treaty that we spoke about earlier. So the cooperations are happening at different levels where we exchange our knowledge, information, as well as resources. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Makasini, are you covered?
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, have I missed anybody?
Chair.
Yes, who's speaking?
It's Previous Chair.
Please go ahead. Sorry, I didn't
Yes,
recognize your name.
you have recognized me, Chair, but unfortunately, I think this gadget was dealing with me. But
Okay, but we got
but
you now. That's
yeah,
fine. Thank you.
yeah, but however, Chair, I think in terms of the questions that I wanted to ask, Commissioner Makasini have covered me. But however, I wanted to check, Chair, because if you check the chapter in chapter 2 of the bill, where it talks that the minister must come with the procedure and time frame vis-a-vis with the I wanted to check between the people that are affected, particularly the owners, that isn't it that does the department have the norm and standard that they have in place, so that if the owners must able to refer on it in terms of what the department expected in terms of maintaining the standard in terms of that oil spillage, particularly on the contingency plan. That's question number one. Number two, Chair, I understand that currently, as they have explained, that currently we've got laws that are dealing with the spillage of oil in terms of spillage of chemicals in terms of in our sea. I want to check what levels, if they were to rate the department, were to rate between 100% from 0 to 100% in terms of spillage, how bigger it is in terms of the scale. And for now, currently, because the bill is not yet in effect, what measures are they having in place to deal with it, or we are waiting for this bill to come to law so that they can able to implement it? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Department, over to you. Thank you.
I just want to say, Chair, that insofar as the consultative nature exists within the department, I think one can say we have found a strong system to engage stakeholders, and we continue to interact across the spectrum of the transport ecosystem and its value chain thereof. And we are endeavoring to improve where there are shortcomings. So I think on the first question, wherein the issue of regulations would apply, is that it would not be arbitrary regulations. Two, it would not be regulations which would be done in a vacuum of considering comments and issues that may be raised by the various stakeholders which will be affected by this bill when it obviously comes into law. So I'm pretty certain that the consultative processes will continue, and we will continue to ensure that where changes are so required, it would be done. Maybe, Chair, a suggestion one can make as well for the purposes of the benefit of the committee is that maybe if your program allows, at a particular point, we can come back with the maritime branch and probably all other branches, but I'm specific on maritime and probably aviation, which find themselves signing quite a number of international protocols and conventions, to say maybe a briefing on those so that they can be a broader connection of issues and what affects one over the other, and to contextualize, because I think, as you have heard today, there are other conventions will still be bringing to yourselves which require domestication. There are others that are already at play. There are strategic and structural changes in some of the work that we'll be doing with transfers of responsibilities from DFFE to SAMS and so on. So to locate correctly and to enhance understanding, I may just say that on the key priority conventions at play, because as we speak to you now, Chair, we as participants in the IMO, we have to, adhere to certain. And then the second point.
Apologies, Deputy Minister. Can we just everybody just mute themselves, please? Sorry, Pasha Dilakane, please mute yourself. Thank you. Apologies, Deputy Minister, please continue.
No, thank you, Chair. And then I wanted to say, of course, we also have the merchant shipping bill, which is currently before the NA, which in itself will be domesticating issues, and we are updating it to current international norms and standards. So I think that it should be beneficial for the committee that maybe we particularly being a new committee and the 7th administration, just maybe a time to focus on the key strategic conventions to enable the committee that moving forward, these issues are within a particular context. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Are you all covered, or should we have another round of questions? Just by show of hands, if anybody else has something to ask. If I may this from Honourable Skeekwoggel, yes, I'll give you an opportunity now. I just want to ask from my side, if I may, to the department, and I apologize if this has been covered. I might have missed it, but how the presentation spoke of surveillance, monitoring, and response. How will this bill be operationalized? So who will ultimately be responsible for the responses and for the action? So who will enact the bill? Which department will do that? Honourable Skeekwoggel, you can also ask your questions quickly, and then we'll ask the department to respond to all of them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chair. Three quick ones. Honourable Beer touched on that. I just wanted section 16 of the Master Disaster Management Forum. I think the department must just look into, because I know some provinces don't even have a functional disaster management, so it might affect this implementation of it. And then we touched on section 28 and 30 of the fines. Is there a way that when the boats or the ships will enter our space, that this bill, or somehow is this communicated to them, or how would they know if they contravene anything? And then I just want to say, I think the DG mentioned when he answered my first question about the regulations that will be developed. I just want to know, has there any draft regulations by the minister compiled yet? This is in section 31. If not, yeah. And when would the process start? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Minister, Department. You can respond.
Chair, the DDG and the Chief Director will come in. Well, I think that on the issue of the disaster management centers, that will be an area within your purview to the Honourable Committee, that and Parliament, to look at where there are shortcomings insofar as where legislated structures are supposed to be in place and they are not in place. I'm not certain that we can go to other departments and then demand that things are done. Ordinarily, the benchmark of any legislation is other legislation to locate it correctly. But I think because the deficiency has been so aptly identified by the honourable member, it's to our benefit if you are to engage with those departments, because I think that the issue of disaster management and related matters goes well beyond our purview. And so I think it would be beneficial also for provinces to be able to report back to that for everyone, because it's not just the transport sector matter. It's it's across the spectrum insofar as disaster response is concerned. DDG and Chief Director.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. I'll take the question of how do we make sure that the vessels that are entering our waters are well aware of the existing laws. We, as part and parcel of the IMO family, that's where all the the communication of the bills, or rather the act that have been enacted, will be communicated so that the states that have already domesticated those acts can be communicated in IMO, and then countries from using that very same system are able to be appraised of which countries have enacted a particular resolutions of the IMO. So they should be able to know, because each and every vessel that comes into any country, there is what we call the ship agents that are the ship agents will also make sure that the vessels that are entering our waters should abide by the laws of that particular country. It forms part and parcel of the work of the ship agents in those respective countries. Mr. Ntuli, can you take the first question that was asked by Honorable? Mr. Ntuli, can you take the first question? Sorry, I was muted.
Thank you, DDG. Yes, I think the question by the Honorable Chair relates to the role players. Who are they? If we list the role players that are responsible for the implementation, I think it will be in the following hierarchy. You've got the Minister of Transport, who's got specific mandate in terms of the overall implementation of ensuring the implementation of the act of the bill once enacted into law. Obviously, I think the Director General is also identified, more especially on the causing the assessment to be conducted, and the contingency plan, the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. So he is an authority that must approve the contingency plan. But there are as well specific functions that will be undertaken by our implementing agency, which is the South African Maritime Safety Authority, who will be the guys, if I use the language, boots on the ground to actually coordinate things and ensure that things are working. So the coordinating mechanism, for instance, is chaired by the department, so that's part of what the Director General will be doing. So you've got well-identified role players who undertake the implementation. Then the last question was on whether we've started drafting the regulations. The answer to that one is that I think after this meeting, because of the level of interest into this bill, I think we are sure that we're going to get a positive response, and so the team that was waiting to put to put ink into the paper, he has already identified the list of regulations which will be, because this is one of the requirements that the Presidency needs, that you need to have the draft regulations so that the law would then be implemented immediately. Some of the regulations are so critical to enable, for instance, you would have identified the assessment, which must be undertaken within 2 years. So that is would be made ready before the President is asked to sign, is requested to consider signing the bill into law. There was just one question that was asked earlier on, and that related to whether Angola and Mozambique were parties to the OPRC convention. And the answer, I've just checked the IMO website here, it confirms that both countries are parties. They acceded to the convention. So the second part then would be, which is again obtainable from the IMO, would be whether they have domesticated, and I think all that is coming positive. But through these other mechanisms that the DDG alluded to, I think we've got standing cooperation agreements with them. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very, very much. I don't see any more hands from the committee members. So I just want to say thank you very much to the Deputy Minister Klengwa and to Mr. Madia and Mr. Mtuli, your team. Thank you for the briefing today. This is an extremely necessary and crucial piece of legislation and much needed at your time. I wanted to ask the committee secretariat, seeing as we are a new committee and it's a new parliament, if you can just give us a quick briefing on the steps forward, the way forward from here on. Mr. Ntalini or Dr. Clark?
Thank you, Chairperson. I will take members through the steps, but before I do so, Chairperson, I would like to check or request whether the parliamentary legal officers would like to say something before I take member through. I see in the platform we've got Mr. Tejani and Ms. Toise.
So please go ahead.
Good morning, Chairperson and the members of the committee, and good morning to the Honorable Deputy Minister. No, Chair, for now, the field is not for us. So we will come back later. Thanks very much.
Noted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tejan. So, Chairperson, let me take the committee through the steps. The first step was this one, where the department has briefed the committee on the bill. Then the next step, it will be for members to go and brief their respective provincial legislatures, on the bill. We've scheduled, the week that's starting next week, where members they will be doing so. Then thereafter, we will issue an advert to call for submissions of written comments, which those comments we're expecting them to receive them up until the end of November. Then in the first week of December, then we will be dealing with we'll be considering those return submissions that we might have received. Therefore, thereafter, the next year, 2025, is then that the first quarter of 2025 is then that we will be dealing with, with the negotiating and the final mandate of the bill. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much.
The tag would like to add more.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I just wanted to set out the steps that Mr. Mtalini has just taken the committee through. So as you said now, we've just finished the departmental briefing on the bill. Next week, in practice, what happens is provincial legislatures would invite the department to brief the respective provincial legislatures on the object of the bill. But the permanent delegates from this committee, Chair and honorable members, will introduce those briefings in the provincial legislatures. What then happens, and this happens parallel, as Mr. Mtalini said, a call is in place in national publications for oral and written submissions on the bill. There might also be identified experts in the field that might be invited to address the committee on their views on the bill. At the same time, Chairperson, honorable members, provincial legislatures also decide on the nature of public participation they are going to undertake in respect of the bill. So some provincial legislatures might hold public hearings, some might have oral submissions, some might invite written submissions on the bill as well. So then based on the written submissions, or rather based on the public participation inputs received by provincial legislatures then develop their negotiating mandates on the bill. and that is submitted to the NCOP. And in that negotiating mandates, provincials and legislatures informs the select committee whether they support the bill or whether they support the bill subject to certain amendments. And so that is why one would typically refer to it negotiating mandates, because it's the provincial legislatures informing the NCOP that they are willing to support the bill under certain conditions or amendments, or whether they, at that point already, based on the public participation, of the view that they would support the bill, or they would outright not support the bill. What then happens is, based on the public participation that our select committee undertaken, based on the inputs in the negotiating mandates provided by the provincial delegation, the department is then invited back to the committee to provide their responses to the oral submissions and the written submissions received by the committee, as well as the negotiating mandate submitted by provinces. Having considered those inputs plus the department's responses, the committee is then in a position to deliberate on whether it proposes amendments to the bill as it is before the committee at the moment. Where there are proposed amendments, the draft amendment bill then gets sent back to provincial legislatures. That would then be the bill that the provincial legislatures would have to submit their final mandates on. So when it gets to the final mandates, Chair and committee members, the negotiating aspect is not taken away. With the final mandates, provincial legislatures will be, in terms of the Mandating Procedures Act, would have to stipulate whether they support the bill or whether they reject the bill. That will then allow the committee to develop its report on the bill. That would then be the end of the select committee's responsibility of the bill. The next step would then take place in NCOP plenary session, Chair, where the chairperson will introduce the report on the bill, and the respective provincial legislatures will then give their voting mandates on the bill. Thank you, Chairperson. If I may leave the slide on, should there be any questions from the members, Chair, I suggest?
Are there any questions for clarification from the members of the committee? I don't see any hands. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Clark and Mr. Ntelini, for your explanations on the way forward. The department, once again, thank you very much. You are very welcome to leave the platform. The next step of this meeting is to adopt the minutes of the previous meeting. So the department and Deputy Minister, thank you so much. You are very welcome to leave the platform. You excused me. Thank you very much for your presentation today. Honourable members, can we just have a quick look at the minutes, the draft minutes of our select committee that we had on the 11th of September. That was the meeting where we had the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation doing the introductory session. On page 1, are there any corrections or inputs? Thank you. On page, just raise your hands if you have anything to add. Page 2. Thank you. Page 3. I don't see any hands. Can I ask for a proposer of these minutes, please, as a true reflection? Honourable members. Honourable members, can I get a proposer for the minutes, please?
It's Kaunda, Chair. I move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kaunda. Can we get a seconder for that, please?
Chairperson, Honourable Skirgulho, I second it.
Thank you very much. Those minutes are then adopted. Honourable members, thank you for your participation in the meeting today and for your questions. I think we've all learned a lot during this presentation today. and we're looking forward to taking this bill to the provinces. I thank you for your inputs, and I thank the staff, Dr. Clark, Mr. Ntalini. Thank you very much for your input as well. It's much appreciated. And with that, I declare this meeting closed. Thank you very much.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Makazini.
No, I just want to check. I'm not sure whether is it allowed now for us to wear our party logo regalia, like what Honorable Yuho wearing. Is it allowed or is it a mistake of for him?
No, I noticed that, Honorable Makasini. Honorable
Okay.
Makasini, I noticed that. I was going to address that with him straight after this meeting. The wearing of party regalia on photographs online is not allowed. Thank you very much for reminding me.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I can borrow you the three colors, black, green, and gold as well. Thank you.
Let us adjourn this meeting before we say something that we're going to regret. Thank you, all members. Thank you for your participation.
Goodbye, colleagues.
Thank you, Chair.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Chair.